Welcome back to what was Bald Business, the Naked Truth in Entrepreneurship, and what now is the Fit Effect, the missing piece to your prosperity. I wanted to open up this new episode. So it's been a little over 4 years since I recorded a podcast for this podcast. And I kept it for a long time, and I thought about just getting rid of it, starting from scratch. But you know, to me, there's something cool about seeing the transition, the journey of life and business. And so the Fit Effect really is going to be a podcast about essentially the ROI of fitness and health on your business and your life. But it's taken me a while to get to kind of land here, to land where it is essentially, how would I say, the hub that I always kind of imagined over the last few years creating, that I was trying to create in different areas. And so what I'd like to do is I would like to kind of go back and talk about how I got here, go from maybe back up to all the way to about 2018, and talk about why I chose to rebrand and relaunch the podcast as the Fit Effect instead of completely just changing it or completely getting rid of it and then restarting it, why I chose to rebrand it and relaunch it. And then I'll talk a little bit about frequency of podcasts, different topics, and things like that. So, it's interesting because in 2018, I moved to Tampa, Florida. And for me, it was kind of this opportunity to try something new, to do something different. And so I started business consulting. And what I learned very quickly about business consulting is that I didn't like the way that consultants, quote unquote, were kind of expected to deliver, processes, systems, procedures that would get people maybe on the team or clients or whatever it may be to adhere or to be influenced or maybe manipulated by that and do the thing, instead of focusing on the improvement of the individual at the top or the leadership, and then pouring into those below them or around them so that everybody can actually improve instead of just becoming cogs in a wheel, ultimately, of a business or of a goal or a dream. And so, I spent a couple years doing the consulting, and I was able to have a lot of cool experiences. I worked primarily with other health and fitness businesses. But what I quickly realized is I was like, I want this to be more about business and life. I want it to be more about strategy. I want it to be more about how to improve, how to change, how to grow, how to expand you as an individual so that you don't have to rely on, well, if the system doesn't work, then I don't know what to do, right? Systems and procedures, yes, there's a place for those things in our business and in our life. But at the end of the day, the improvement of us as people is ultimately what the goal should be. Because the more that we improve, the better that we are, the better that we operate, like everything around us is going to flourish. And so, from 2018 to late 19, early 2020, I was doing a lot of this business consulting. And then Audra, my wife, and I decided to open another fitness facility. Ultimately, it was called the Fit Effect. And when we started, we weren't sure exactly what it was going to look like. At first it was launched kind of as a women's only brand, where it was like group classes and things like that. And then COVID happened very, very shortly after that, kind of in the midst of all those things. And, we all have our thoughts about that. I'm going to leave mine right here where they are. But ultimately, I think that kind of kicked us in the face enough trying to figure out how to deal with all those things around that ultimately we really struggled starting that new company. It was interesting because this would have been our sixth gym that we ever opened. So in the very beginning, it was slow. It wasn't I don't know, it didn't have the energy that we thought it was going to have. And you could say that a lot of things, right? We were new to the area. We didn't really know a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of excuses that you could make, but it is what it is. We just didn't feel like that it was ultimately becoming what we wanted to become. And at the same time, I was also trying to do too many things. I really love business and life strategy. That's what I love. I love helping people solve problems in their life that makes their life better. But what I would do is, I would try to help with the gym, and then I would also like try to get some virtual clients online because I do work with several clients virtually, and then I would also go to these networking events, and I would try to promote both things, and it just became very clustered. It became very challenging. It became very frustrating. It also kind of just I would say that I felt like I was kind of running in circles because I didn't know sometimes what to talk about and when to talk about it. And so for me, it was also this eye-opening experience of like, hey, you kind of need to dial in, you need to focus, you need to figure out what it is that your message is, and try to figure out a way to do all these things that you love in one streamlined way. And so in 2023, I was like, I think I'm going to start a networking company. And so I started a networking company. It got a decent amount of, I would say, exposure and traction. We had several events where we had 50, 60, 70 people come out. And then we had some events where we had 3, 4, and none. And I think that what I was wanting out of that was a community of business owners and entrepreneurs, people who wanted to grow, people who wanted to change, people who wanted to improve, all while like missing what was right in front of me, which was this slowly growing community of people who wanted that, and they were already falling within the, I guess, the context or the ideal customer consumer that I wanted to work with. I like working with people who want to improve. I like working with people who desire a different outcome and are willing to put in the work to see the outcome come to life. Whether or not you reach the goal like in your timeline doesn't matter. Our timing is not perfect, but ultimately something that we can move forward towards. Okay, and you're going to hear me use this word. It's the fit effect, the missing piece of your prosperity, and we're going to talk about prosper and why I chose that word, and we're going to do all that here in a few minutes. But it really is the idea of like prospering. Like I like working with people who want to prosper, who want to grow, who want to move forward, who want to expand. And what I realized is that by trying to have a networking company with such a large net cast, it was really hard to find those specific types of individuals. Not saying that some of those people weren't in there, but it was just so much going on. And then at the end of 2023, we kind of were faced with a situation where we had to either choose to close the fitness facility or we had to move the fitness facility. We were in a 6,000 square foot location, which was really too big for us. I loved the space, though. I loved how big it was, how open it was, how vibrant it was, but ultimately it was way too big. And so we decided to downsize the facility. The very last day of 2023, we moved. December 31st, we moved to a much smaller location. Now, when we move locations, that is when things really started to shift. And Audra and I started having conversations about, okay, well, what does this look like now? We don't have nearly as much space. What type of client are you wanting to work with, and what kind of community are you wanting to build? And so that kind of brings us to, I guess, what the company focuses on today, which is entrepreneurs and other business professionals who want to create an environment for themselves within their fitness and their health that allow them to grow, change, expand, grow their business, make more money, and ultimately see themselves live at the best version of themselves that they absolutely can. And it's funny because for a lot of time, I feel like that I would fight that idea of talking about the best version of yourself, or ultimately the ultimate version, the next level. And I don't know why. Maybe because I felt like that people didn't want to be pushed to that level. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I felt like that people Didn't really want to talk about that level because I've been in situations in which people don't want to talk about what they could become because that's scary. It's uncertain. There's a lot of fear there. It's a lot easier to just sit in the comfort. Trust me, the last few years have been crazy for me. Um, Sometimes there's nothing more that I want to do than to just go home and sit in the hot tub and just chill and just be in the comfort of that heat and just in the silence, right? But I think that there was so much uncertainty for me around using that kind of language, that verbiage, that I just didn't know how to go with it. And then finally, I was like, you know what? Why does that matter? Like, if that's the type of person I want to work with, I need to start talking about that more. I need to start putting that out there more. I need to make that a part of the fit effect. I need to ultimately create an environment that produces growth. And sometimes an environment that produces growth is not all sunshine and rainbows. I mean, I would love if it was, but many times it's difficult, it's challenging, it's dark, it's ugly, it's dirty, it's putting in the elbow grease, one might say. And so the fit effect is the missing piece to your prosperity because ultimately you are the missing piece of the puzzle of your life. So you got this huge life, right? You have relationships, you have finances, you have your health, you have your business, you have your family. There's so many layers to who you are. A lot of times business owners and business professionals neglect themselves to reach that ultimate goal that they feel like they have in their mind of money or of just that. I gotta get to that leadership role. I gotta get to that management role. And once I get to that level, it'll slow down for me. It'll change for me. It'll be different for me. Just to continuously be smacked in the face with the reality that it's not, that it's worse, that it's busier, that I have less time, that I have less motivation, that I have less care about waking up on time and doing the things that I want to achieve. And so that word prosperity comes obviously from the word prosper, which ultimately means to flourish, physically grow strong and healthy. Now, it's not confined to flourishing physically. Physically is, bodily, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, relationally. Flourish is ultimately what we want. If we want to fully flourish as human beings, I feel like that one of the first top things that we need to do, especially as business owners and other business professionals, is to take care of yourself. If you are constantly bogged down by stress, if you're constantly bogged down by the negative voices in your head saying you're never going to reach that goal anyways, why are you trying? It's so difficult. You are being affected. Your other areas of your life are being affected. If you're burying yourself in work because you ultimately gave up on the fitness goal that you had because you kept cycling through the same problem over and over and over again, you're burying yourself in your work because you are achieving something at your work, you're going to end up spending 10 to 20 years trying to get yourself back to a place to just be able to enjoy your life when you're 50, 60, 70 years old. Now, I have several clients who are 50 to 70 years old, and they are becoming prosperous. They're living into their prosperity by taking action. Because ultimately, success, Earl Nightingale says it best. And I love his definition, so I always reflect back on the way that he said it. Success ultimately is the pursuit of a worthy ideal. It's the progressive realization of a worthy ideal is exactly how he says it. So the progressive realization would be the pursuit of seeing something happen, of a worthy ideal, which means whatever ideal is worthy to you. Whatever ideal is worthy to you, not to me, not to the guy next door, not to the girl across the table, whatever is worthy to you. Progressive realization of that thing is success. It is being successful. It is living toward and into prosperity. And so ultimately, taking care of you, who you are, making sure you have a goal, a dream, an outcome that you desire, that you are moving toward on a consistent basis, is the missing piece to you becoming prosperous. It is the missing piece to you flourishing in this life. So I hope that gives you some context. I hope that gives you a little bit of, thought or thinking around why I decided to just rebrand. I think a couple other small notes would be, I kind of mentioned at the very beginning, but that growth process, right? You go back and listen to some of my episodes from 2020, some of the things that are 2019 to 2020, whenever I did those episodes, you will hear stories from like even like way in the past of things that I was trying to figure out and go through. And then I had several guests on the show from the Tampa Bay area because I was also connecting with other individuals in the area, trying to essentially build relationships. I think that building relationships is the number one thing that ultimately can propel us forward in life. Whether that's you're trying to meet someone who you can learn something from, or you're trying to meet someone who you can teach something to. We are ultimately, we need each other by nature, right? You can do what I can't do, and I can do what you can't do. And helping each other is how we grow. It's how we flourish. It's how we prosper. So, anyways, but that was one of the reasons why I really just wanted to rebrand, is kind of, I guess, show that, because I feel like a lot of people, they start things and they give up on them, right? So I started that Bald Business podcast. I did love the name, primarily just because I was bald. But I liked the name. I thought it was fun. But ultimately, I'm at a crossroad in my life where I'm like, I either rebrand and bring everything under one umbrella and really start to live into this mission, or I keep trying to do too many things all the time. And for me, bring it all under one umbrella makes way more sense. For me, being able to see the progress that I have continued, I hope inspires someone. Like maybe someone else started a podcast and they gave up on it, and maybe they did. I don't remember. I don't remember how many episodes I'm on. But maybe they did 10, 20, 30, 40 episodes and gave up on it. Like hopefully this inspires them to go back and relaunch and rebrand and just grow and expand and move forward. Like that's literally what life is about. It's growing. We are essentially trees. And that might sound really random, but a tree starts out as a tiny little seed, just like we start out as tiny little seeds. And then we expand as we learn, and we get bigger as we learn, and we become more impactful as we learn. And so I would encourage you today that if there's anything that you've given up on, uh, just go back and see if maybe it's just time for it to be different. A different version of the same thing is still another level. It's still expansion. It's still growth. So those are just some thoughts. I've had a lot of really cool experiences shifting everything into business and life strategy. Essentially, I'm focused on business and life strategy with a focus in health. So, when someone comes to me, I don't ask them what their fitness goals are. I also now want to understand what their business goals are, what their sales goals are, what their work goals are, career goals. Like, how can I support you as the individual, the whole person? The whole person. Prosperity is about the whole individual. You. It's not one area. It's all of the things coming together that make us human. And so ultimately, that's what prosperity is. So that's what I focus on. I focus on how can I support the whole person. And in that, it's been awesome to see. Like I've been able to help clients double their revenue. I've seen a client go from $40,000 a month to over $80,000 a month because of the steps that they took in their life to not just take care of themselves, but to also become better leaders, better communicators, better people at defining success, and ultimately better at managing their health, managing their life. I don't think that fitness is one of those things that you can do and your life ever gets worse. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have hard times. But fitness ultimately is it is the number one tool for building self-confidence. It's the number one tool for building trust within yourself. It's the number one tool for building a better mindset. It's the number one tool for becoming who you want to be. So I would challenge you today, if you're not doing something with your fitness, you can visit thefiteffect.com. You can fill out the form. We work with people virtually and in person here in Lutz, Florida, which is basically North Tampa. Happy to connect. Happy to be back. Happy to be back on the podcast. I said I would mention some things about topics and frequency. So I'm going to be sharing a lot of health topics. Frequency right now, I'm going to shoot for twice a month. If I do more, great. But I'm going to shoot for 2 podcasts a month. And honestly, the reason for that is because I've had a real hard time just getting this first one out due to distractions in the business and other things that I've got going on. And so I'm really going to shoot for 2 a month and pray that I can get to 4. But if there is someone that you find interesting, I am looking to bring on guests. I'm looking to have people come in to the office. If you're watching this on YouTube or somewhere else, you notice my art wall behind me is about half done, and some of them are going to get replaced. Anyways, the art wall is about half done, but ultimately, I'm going to be bringing guests in live to the office here to do some recording with, to share with you ultimately how you can improve your life. And then I'm also going to be bringing on guests virtually. So if you know anybody local or abroad, I'd love to connect with them and see if they're a good fit for the show, and honestly how I can help them expand their network and their life as well. Thanks for joining me on whatever episode number this is, but ultimately episode 1 of The Fit Effect, the missing piece to your prosperity.